Yo, Shortbox Nation. Welcome back for another episode. And to our new friends and listeners joining us for the first time, welcome to the Shortbox Podcast, your soon-to-be new favorite comic book and pop culture podcast. I'm your host, Bart Milligan, and later you'll be introduced to my co-host for this episode, Cesar Cordero. This is episode 259 for us, and a very Simpsons-focused episode. It features our interview with Warren Evans, or better known online as the Bart of Darkness. He's one of the most prolific Simpsons fanboys and collectors you'll ever meet, and happens to manage an online community of over 43,000 followers. This episode was originally released as a Patreon-only exclusive, but the overwhelming and positive feedback we got from our patrons and Warren's online community suggested that we share this episode with everyone. So here it is. Over an hour of in-depth conversation revolved around all things Simpsons. We highlight some of the best and funniest moments in the franchise's history, get an introduction to Warren, his collection, and hear some of his favorite stories about running such a vast online community. I highly consider checking out the Bart of Darkness Instagram profile before hitting play to really get an idea of the scope of this massive collection of rare and hard-to-find Simpsons memorabilia. Or you could check out the promo video we did for this episode on our YouTube page. Just search the Shortbox Podcast and find the Bart of Darkness video. I mentioned this was a Patreon exclusive and want to remind everyone we have more episodes like this and other bonus content and merch available for anyone interested in supporting the podcast. Check out what we have to offer in exchange for your contributions at patreon.com/theshortbox. And if you enjoyed this episode and you want more weekly episodes delivered to your favorite podcast app, I implore you to subscribe to us by searching The Shortbox. Recommending this show to your best friend or favorite nerd or fanboy or girl is appreciated and helps us grow our reach and audience. This episode officially starts after the music. Enjoy.
Man, this thing, I'll go crazy.
Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the Shortbox. Season 6. Yeah.
I'm going to pull up my notes just for when we talk about episodes.
Sure, go ahead.
I told you, dude.
But so
This guy's
That's what I like about Warren. Warren's like me. Warren's like me. He's like a planner. He's a
I
planner.
am the least nervous person ever, but there is a certain level of like anxiousness that comes with something you've never done.
Yeah.
And for some reason, I've never been on a podcast. But once we get to going, it's going to be smooth sailing, baby.
I like it.
Guess what? We've already been getting to going.
Whoa.
I'm already gone.
Bro.
Did you hit record already?
I've been recording.
Yes.
That's what I'm saying.
See?
I've been gone.
No,
That-
see,
oh, hold
see,
up.
This is the thing. That just blew my mind.
Yeah.
There we go. There, I forgot the official
This is what we
light.
do. is
Look,
just talk.
I even brought out my my Stanley Simpsons figure
Beautiful.
that Cesar got me as a gift many years ago. Still my favorite toy.
R.I.P. Stan.
Yes, absolutely,
R.I.P.
man.
Wonderful figure.
Moment sounds.
Shout out NECA.
Yeah. All right,
toy line.
let's hit it. Yo, Shortbox patrons, because this is a Patreon exclusive as a thank you for all of those who are contributing.
sweet steak
to
and
the
potatoes
show.
for your
Yeah,
ear.
baby. Perks, baby.
Or sweet vegan steak and potatoes
I like that.
for your ear.
Interesting.
I like that a lot.
Bart Milligan on the mic. I got my right-hand man, Cesar Cordero.
Yo, Boca Burger or bust.
English, please.
That's racism.
And as a special guest, it shouldn't be no surprise, man, because we've been definitely hyping this up, but our good friend, Warren Evans, is on the mic here with us, a.k.a. Bart of Darkness.
Dude, Bart of
me.
Darkness.
That's
I got to
me.
say,
The Dark Bart.
can I say your Instagram handle is so perfect, it's not
Yeah.
even funny.
You can say that, and I
He's like,
appreciate
I
it
welcome
because
it.
I agree. It's very aesthetically pleasing.
Well, let's start with that. Where'd you get the, where'd the name
Besides
come
Joseph Conrad's Heart of Darkness.
So, okay, that's fair. The name Bart of Darkness is actually, there's really nothing clever behind it. It's the name of the first episode of my favorite season. And when I went to name the Instagram, when I first made the Instagram, I needed it to look nice. And so ever since I was a kid, whenever I'd make a screen name for AIM, anything, it had to look the right length. It had to have like a balance to it, which again, my obsessive compulsive brain justifies that. But I really needed it to look a certain way and have like that doesn't look weird, all lowercase. That doesn't look weird typed out with space. So yeah, season 6, favorite season, first episode,
It is pleasing. It's
and it looks nice.
4 syllables. Bart of Darkness. Like
So-
it works.
Yeah.
It works.
Let me take a step back real quick because there's some folks that probably listening like, yo, who's this Warren? What's a Bart of Darkness?
Yeah, who
What's
is
a
that
Bart of Darkness?
guy? Who is that guy?
Warren is the man responsible for one of the most prolific. Well, I'm safe to say prolific, right? Probably
Sure.
all encompassing.
I mean, anything that makes me sound better and cool, like you can just say
one of
it.
the most modest people I know next to me, right?
Warren's like winner of the Humbleness Award.
Look, Warren is the man in charge of one of the most prolific Simpsons Instagram accounts that you'll probably ever find, especially when you think about Simpson collections as far as merch, toys, etc.
And if you think you found it, you're wrong.
Yo, absolutely.
Because you're not on that Bart of Darkness.
So you're probably thinking like, yo, he just runs a Instagram account. What's so big deal about him? But we wanted to have you on, Warren, because I am such a big fan of your profile page. Not only that, you've garnered over 41,000 followers.
Just hit 42,000 a
Congratulations.
couple days ago. Thank
Congratulations.
You.
Congratulations. But the reason why I wanted to have you on is because you are probably one of my favorite advocates for the power of building an online community using social media. Like, you're a good example of what social media could be used for. It gets a lot of negative. There's a lot of negativity attached to it, but
Absolutely.
I think when the creators of Instagram first started, they wanted to give this platform to allow people like yourself to build a community.
Right.
And I see that happening with yours. Like, you don't spam. You don't you are genuinely posting like really cool finds, really cool history about the Simpsons, and if I didn't have you on, Austin and Lars would continue to bug the hell out of me. So I want to thank them for inspiring me to have you on. I'm a big fan. I think me and C are huge fans of your page as well.
Yep.
Drew's always talking highly about it. So
Thank you.
Yeah, man. I just want to go and give you those props.
You're too kind. You're
And
clearly
hearing
too
you
kind.
talk about the thought that you put into just the name. So I saw Austin on Monday, and I was telling him, I could see Warren Wednesday. So we chatted up about you and whatnot. And he was like, you know what, man? He really takes a lot of time and he puts a lot of attention to all of his posts. He's like, yo, he'll hit me up for like 3 or 4 different pictures. Like, yo, what angle should I go for? How's the
great.
caption thing like looking? So it's really cool to like hear that even like every detail. It sounds that you really put a lot of thought into it.
Well, so first of all, about that, I'm gonna have to have a word with Austin for giving away my secrets right now. But
Man on the news
I
found
do-
dead in car.
I trust Austin. Shout out to Austin. He's very mindful of an aesthetic when it comes to
Oh, yeah.
Instagram and any sort of social media for that matter. So I trust Austin to tell me like, hey, that's a bad photo. That looks really dumb. And same goes for like if I think someone understands what I'm trying to do as far as like the visual aspect of the Instagram, I am not in any way like afraid to ask someone's opinion. Like, does this look bad? Is this caption lame? Do I sound like a jerk? And with friends like Austin and Lars, I have no doubt that they would tell me that right away. Any chance to roast me.
You're not the only one.
And we talk about the followers. I just want to say, up front, don't think of me any differently just because I'm famous on the internet.
Well, that's about all the time we got, folks. That's about all the time.
I'm about to have a good
It
ass
could
episode.
only lasted that long.
Yo,
before.
I tell my wife all the time, I'm like, hey, babe, look, I know it's probably intimidating because I have all these followers, but I married you. Like we're in this together, so you're partially famous as well.
See, permission to bust out my ego too.
No, man.
Like, damn it.
Look, this show already has plenty of egos. Like 2 of the biggest ones here, and now we got another one in orbit here.
Well, so to anyone who actually follows me that hears that's total nonsense. It's clearly a facade. So don't look too far into it. But I am famous on the internet.
Yo, that's the only fame that matters.
So let's get down to the nitty gritty.
Let's do it.
Why The Simpsons, man?
Oh, man. Why The Simpsons? Well, I think anyone my age, anyone who's between 25 and 40 has a very personal relationship with The Simpsons because every kid wanted to be Bart. And I think as the show aged with most people, they sort of started to see themselves in different characters. I think to me, it was my introduction with a few other shows, Ren and Stimpy and things like that. It was my introduction to the idea that a cartoon was more than just like Bugs Bunny, which, not to say anything bad about, I grew up loving Bugs Bunny. I love classic cartoons, but it was a style of humor that really showed me something that I wasn't exposed to previously. And I think it was that for a lot of kids. A lot of parents didn't like their kids watching it. I had I guess you could call it a benefit of having a single mom who had to work a lot of nights, and she didn't really monitor some of the jokes that were made on The Simpsons. I think I got kind of a free pass in that way. But I think The Simpsons is special because it literally shifted humor and comedy in mainstream television. And I say that because those sort of jokes weren't normally told on a cartoon.
No.
You didn't have real family situations. You didn't have instances between children that you could relate to with your siblings. You didn't have the same sort of things. They were normally told through a much rosier lens on like a sitcom that always ended in a happy way or always gave you a certain lesson. The Simpsons sort of showed you that you didn't always have to get a lesson, and sometimes you did, but it was not always the lesson that you thought you would get because of what you normally saw on television. So I just think The Simpsons did something that's never been done since.
Technically, it's still going on, and everyone knows.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Yes.
That used to crack my dad up anytime he heard that dude.
Oh, yeah,
he would
Frank.
love us.
He's the best, yeah. But, I just don't think shows have been able to tap into that sort of feeling since The Simpsons, mostly because every show since then, in one way or another, has tried to rip off The Simpsons.
True.
Family Guy, any other show that revolves around a family that uses that sort of humor, I think owes a debt to The Simpsons that can never be repaid.
Simpsons did it.
They did, and I actually loved that South Park episode when I was younger because
So they pay respect.
Yeah, they paid respect, and it actually reminded me how perfect The Simpsons really was. So you say why Simpsons? I say just because it's untouchable, man.
Do you remember your first conscious exposure to Simpsons?
So it's easy to misremember, and sort of be like, I saw this episode and I remember this because of that. But the first image, oddly enough, that I recall seeing of The Simpsons is in the episode where Marge and Homer go to parent-teacher conference, and Bart is at home just destroying the house. He takes out Grandpa's teeth and he ends up busting them all up. And the image of Bart with his teeth, with Grandpa's teeth in his mouth, chomping down on the fan, and it's like that sort of that shot of his face going around in a circle. You see everything moving behind him. That image specifically is my first vivid memory of a joke on The Simpsons that made me really, really laugh and run in the kitchen, tell my mom about it. And when I first started rewatching them when I was a little bit older, that was the one that just really sort of gave me the warm and fuzzy because it's I remember that so well for whatever reason.
So let's fast forward a little bit because I want to know, when did you start the page? Because you have a personal page. How did the Bart of Darkness page start?
So, we talked about Lars for a second. I'm going to give Lars some credit here. Shout out Lars. I love you. When I first moved to Florida to be with my now wife, Lars and I had sort of previously known each other a little bit, but we weren't close on that level. We started hanging out a lot. And Lars is a collector, and I had always collected something, one form or another, basketball cards, X-Men cards, any sort of thing, that I could sort of complete, I would buy as a kid. But when I first saw someone collect sort of where they were trying to complete a line of toys or have everything displayed nicely on a shelf, one of the first people I knew personally to do that was Lars. And it just really made me yo, that's sick. I would like to do that, what would I collect, So I had sort of been on and off buying little Simpsons things here and there. And I got to where I was posting stuff on my personal Instagram, just enough that I was I wonder if this is getting on anyone's nerves, just because it's sort of becoming a common thing that I post. So maybe I should start a page for it. I was like, Lars has a page for his collection. I know a lot of people run pages for their collection. And when I was looking online, I didn't see any about The Simpsons as far as on Instagram. Like, there were people on YouTube, you could find collections, you could find things, but there wasn't an Instagram page about The Simpsons as far as a collection at the time. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to start the page. I'm going to post all these photos, and that way if people want to see it, they can follow me. If they don't, I don't have to punish everyone on my feed with it. So I think it's been right at 5 years. I think August will be 5 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
It's awesome.
Thank you. Time flies.
And what's the journey been like slowly? Because I imagine that for you, it's been strictly kind of grassroots growth. I mean, I imagine.
Right.
So what's the journey been like?
So, well, it's funny because when I first started collecting pretty heavy, my wife, my girlfriend at the time, were still living in a pretty small apartment above a garage. And I was buying all this stuff and I didn't really have anywhere to put it. So it was just sort of like, oh, I need more stuff to post on this Instagram. Like, oh, this post got 100 likes. Like, people sort of like this, so I need more stuff to post. So in a way, the Instagram sort of bred the collection. Not that I wasn't already on that journey, but I think wanting to have more stuff to talk about and more stuff to post, it made me want to buy more things. So I was keeping it in my closet. I was keeping it in bins under the bed. I was keeping it pretty much anywhere I could, literally with nowhere to display it at the time. So the collection sort of outgrew the space, which is why we started looking for a house and things like that. And, it's one of those things where I never would have thought I would obsessively collect something that I didn't have room to collect. But that's just it's the way my brain is. Maybe I'm broken.
No.
You guys tell me.
No.
So, dude, I got a storage unit just for the spare stuff I can't put in this house.
Dude, so I want to say the first day I ever met Warren, because I met him back when Lars was running Monsters in My Closet. Yo, shout out to Lars again.
Shout out, Lars. Love you more, Lars.
Well, it's not a competition, buddy.
Well, if it was a competition, we know that I would win, and I will take my shirt off and fight you both right now.
All right, you won.
Wow. This guy's been listening to a lot of Throwdown. I hate breed.
I have no idea.
So speaking of, I walked into Monsters in My Closet, and Lars wasn't in there, and there was a bedraggled man with a fiery red beard who was just kind of sitting there, and he was like, "Hey, bro, what do you want?" And I was like, "Nah, man, I'm just trying to find some Ninja Turtles toys." And he was like, "Well, the edge is strong, no compromise." You know what I mean? And I was like,
that much is true.
And I was like, "Oh, okay, sweet. So did Lars turn into like a very large, intimidating man, or like what happened?" And he's like, "What you trying to say, man?" No, that's not. That's all bullshit.
Yeah, I was like, I'm on the edge of my seat. Like, damn.
No, man. Like,
We actually fought the first time we met.
Yeah, and then after that, I got 3 X's tattooed in the back of my neck, and I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened.
What was your wife's reaction to the collection?
That's a very good question.
She know?
I don't know if you guys want this podcast to be that long, so maybe next question. No, my wife at first was very much like, much like myself, was like, "Why are you buying all this shit that you don't have room for?"
The struggle.
The logic.
And which I look at her and I say, mind your business. No, but I told
you really said that?
Warren, my dick just shriveled up hearing that. I got so scared for you.
I feel like Key and Peele. Yo, you said
no.
that?
There's no way I would ever say that. So she tried to be supportive, and she's like, "Oh, that's really cool. Like, I like this." And eventually, when I sort of only wanted to buy stuff from The Simpsons, she sort of had to check me a little bit, like, "Hey, like, we should buy a house eventually. Like, we should do this."
Damn it!
So maybe
priorities, logic.
So maybe don't buy. Maybe don't spend all your money on The Simpsons. But I mean, in all, she's been very supportive. She keeps me in check. She doesn't let me go too insane. Maybe I don't always tell her exactly what I actually paid for some things.
No, we never did. I learned that from my dad early on.
That's a lie, Emily. Don't listen to that. But no, she's been overall very, very supportive, and I'm lucky to have someone like her to not just hate my guts
Nice
for
save.
my
Nice
for my
save.
hobby. Thank you.
I respect that. So let's talk about this.
He's like, Emily, these brown boys got me saying all kinds of shit. Don't listen.
I don't know what's in my drink.
I'm here against my will.
is there caffeine in it?
Yo, if anybody's listening, my name is Warren Evans. I've been at Bart's house for like 3 days.
So let's talk about the collection. And for those listening right now, we'll have pictures up. There'll be an accompanying video as well, so you can check that out. But if you go on the Instagram page right now for Bart of Darkness, I know that you actually have like a highlight reel for your room, right? So you could take a picture, or I'm sorry, take a look at the room.
Quick little tour.
See, what was your initial reaction walking into that room?
So it's weird because you see the pictures on your page,
Yes,
right?
you do.
And it's all like, it's not sequential. Like you just say like, all right, what do I want to showcase? How do I want to like frame this? What's the
Right.
composition going to look like? Boom, it's on Instagram. When you walk in, hey everybody, it's your old pal C from the Shortbox Podcast. Listen, have I got a deal for you? Now, we don't normally push stuff on our show unless we believe in it. This is something that we believe in. Tolv headphones by Studio. With a modern Scandinavian design, they bridge the gap between style and technology with the fires of Asgard. And I'm going to be real with you. With 7 hours...
Came in like a wrecking ball.
Okay, Bart, listen.
Oh, my bad. We're recording the commercial now.
Yeah,
Okay, sorry,
man.
sorry.
Anyway, with 7 hours of battery life, you'll have plenty of time to listen to Slayer, Mayhem, or Skeleton Witch. And that's...
Oh, my bad. I'm going to turn the volume on these studios down
Yeah.
just a little bit. All right?
Thanks,
Sorry.
buddy. Anyway, they provide free worldwide shipping, and there's no reason to pay full price. So please, use our promo code SHORTBOX, and you'll get 15% off. That's promo code SHORTBOX, and you'll get 15% off of the headphones. Make it a priority in your life. It's important.
Big
Gotcha.
pimpin', spending cheese. You know what? I should probably leave while you're recording this commercial. It's important. Sorry.
Yeah. Anyway, remember, Studio for the best listening experience.
We now return you to your regularly scheduled program.
It's sensory overload. I can't even do it. Sensory overload while also being aesthetically pleasing.
Yes.
Like it's a
Thank
very
you.
organized room. All the lines in the room lead your eye from one little exhibit to the next, and it's not like I'm for real, like not trying to be all up your dick about this. Like,
I mean, that's fine.
It's okay, good. It's dude. The first thing I saw was the Simpsons arcade game, and I
Right.
instantly went back in time to when I was spending summers in Puerto Rico, and it was like, oh my gosh, man! Like this is crazy. Like it's like you said, people in that age group, whether you were a huge fan like yourself, or you casually dipped in, or you were like somebody like me that I thought I was a fan until I met you, and then you just it just echoes inside of you. Like you're like, man, like this is so cool. Like all this like. What got me was when you were like, yeah, like those toys right there, they look like they're Bobo like from Argentina. They're legit. Like these are actual official toys. They just bought the licensing, and you like went into
Right.
the history. I'm just like,
I love walking into a room like that, and the collector just kind of like they just have stories to share. Like
Right.
I'm a big fan of that. C gave a very poetic and really nice response. My response in my head was, "Damn, this is a lot of yellow."
Yo, a lot
I've
of
never
yellow.
seen so much mustard
a
yellow.
lot of yellow, and that's also
Quick trivia: what color is the yellow for The Simpsons? Is there a specific?
It is 116C PMS.
Please be prepared for that all episode.
That is,
So
those are
happy.
facts.
That is pretty good.
That's actually why. So my old room, it was just a house we were renting, and the whole house was just beige. And you know, when you're renting a house, you're like, I'm not gonna paint this. You know, who cares? But when we moved into this house that we bought, the first thing I said to Emily, I said, I really want to paint this room the same color as the blue shirt Bart wore in like the early merchandise and things like that. He
Nice.
never actually wore the blue shirt on the show, but anyone who's like a real Simpsons merchandise nerd knows that like all the early Bart shit, he's wearing a blue shirt. That's personally some of the best Bart stuff in my opinion. Anything blue shirt, and so I did the best I could to get that color because I was like, well, clearly yellow, blue, it bounces, it pops, and I just refused to have like. You know, the room was like pink or something when we moved in. It was like a kid's room or something. It's still kind of a kid's room. And so that was big for me is I really wanted to make the room something that didn't just make it hard to look at the wall. And I feel like the beige in my old room was like sort of made it not appealing. So
Dude.
had to go for that blue.
I'm so God damn it. I'm so old. I remember the Christmas special. Like the first episode.
First episode.
Right? So I remember watching it, and if I could go back in time and give you that experience, I would. Like I like you're such a fan and you're so earnest about it that when I like remember like God damn, I remember watching that. I want to go back in time like a Terminator and be like, you piece of shit. You piece of shit, kid. It's wasted on you.
I was
wasted.
I was two. I don't remember it.
You know, speaking about like first experiences with Simpsons, Warren, me and you had chatted yesterday when we were just kind of like show prepping, and I had mentioned to you, Simpsons for me was like the first cartoon I could remember as a kid when we came to America watching. It resonated, and I really give like those early seasons of Simpsons. Because we moved here like October 1995, so same year it aired, right?
So the first
It's
ever
80s, man.
Oh.
first ever episode was 89.
Okay.
Tracy Ullman was 87.
Right.
But the first like actual like season 1, episode 1 was 89.
Okay, then vastly okay.
So 95 is actually like I would say 95 was where The Simpsons was like peak.
Okay.
It's like season 6 is a lot of people's favorite, including mine. If it's not, it probably should be. I think it's the best season. And so 95, also 95, I can't get this wrong. I think 95 is when they moved back from Thursdays to Sundays. So there could be something there.
Okay.
I also could be off.
I'm
but-
thinking about 95 was something for a milestone, so it might be around that. But regardless, Simpsons for me was like, for some reason, like my introduction to some weird form of like American culture.
Right.
Like I just learned so much from it, and it was the one cartoon that I could go to school and mention and bring up, and the kids would actually like not pick on me for like
Right,
being
right.
a foreigner. You know,
It's
so,
still that way.
yeah.
It's still that way.
So I've got that sentimental ties to it.
Right. Well, it's like a lot of people say that quoting The Simpsons is sort of like its own language. Like I feel like if you meet someone who really likes The Simpsons and you guys sort of just go into this back and forth of quotes, it's one of those things that can easily like bridge a gap like that. So
That's so true.
wild that
It's probably
Dude, how much has that happened to you?
Yeah.
Can you think of an experience where that happened to you? Because I got one.
share it.
I was gonna say I was at work about maybe 6 months ago, and I was talking to somebody. I had just met them as like a new soldier, and the guy goes, "We don't know. Somehow Germany came up," and he goes, nothing German could be bad." That's not even a line that a real like someone that like casually watch a show
Right.
would get, and that was me. But because it's like my favorite episode, I knew, and I was like, "Why? It's German for the Bart the." And then he looked at me and he was like, "Hey, Sideshow Bob!" Like it was
Yeah,
like,
that's wonderful.
you're right. You get like a kindred sort of like,
Absolutely.
like a little nod, like okay,
You know
okay.
what? I do have a story. There in I think like 4th grade, there was this kid that was the bully of the class, and I remember making he was like picking on some kid, mentioned something about salad, and I remember singing "You Can't Make Friends with Salad," and like he was like, "What? I love that episode. I love," and like we kind of bonded.
Yo.
Like he didn't fuck with me for like at least a week.
No, I mean, it's true, man. That's,
Yeah.
the other day, I'll give you an example. I wish I could remember more stuff like that from, I mean, I'm sure there's a couple stories, but, the other day I'm in traffic and there's this person they're sort of driving like an asshole. It kind of pissed me off. And as I'm looking over to be like, man, what the fuck? This person has like a Kang 2020 sticker on their car.
Nice.
Instantly forgive them. I'm just like, you drive, you do whatever you want, sir. Like I almost wanted to like pull them over and be like, hey, what do you do? Like, do you want to hang out sometime? Like, so I went from being angry to just like,
So, like,
I wish I could be friends
stalkery?
with this guy. Yeah, it's like I'm gonna follow this guy home and see where he lives.
So, what are your interactions with like friends and family who know that you're really hardcore about Simpsons, and maybe even like your experiences, like with the community of followers that you have? Like, do you have people reach out to you, ask questions, or like send you pictures of, hey, I found the Simpson thing you think you would like?
Right. So actually, all the time. To the first part of the question, I mean, my mom. She remembers watching it with me and stuff, but like I said, she worked a lot at night, and she, that's probably why she let me watch some of the episodes. And so, a lot of my family, like my brother loved it too. And we just sort of grew up watching it. Like I don't actually even remember like when we stopped because it was such a point of our week to watch The Simpsons. As far as like followers to the Instagram, I mean, I've met so many awesome people through the Instagram. I mean, people, I've gotten comments that are beyond something I would expect to get from this medium, where people are like, my dad died of cancer and he was a huge Simpsons fan, and my mom and I will like constantly show each other these photos that you post, and we talk, oh, dad would have loved this, and like I've gotten some very moving comments. Like, I get goosebumps even saying that. And I wish I could remember your name. If you listen to this, shout out to you. So people have been amazing about sharing those sort of personal experiences, or like, oh my God, I had this when I was 7. My dad bought it for me at Kmart. Like, people remember these very specific instances with these things that I post. And that's honestly what I love about the Instagram, is just getting to hear people's recollection. Now, of course, I run into some people that, it's almost like me sharing the story of this item is not enough for them. Like, oh, I had that, or like, oh, I have 5 of these in my closet. It's like, okay, well, I'm pretty sure that I wasn't asking, like, I'm not trying to dunk on anyone with these things. I've had a couple people tell me, like, you don't even tell us where you get these things. You're just trying to show off.
Who cares?
Right.
What?
So like anything, you're going to have a couple of weirdos, but people send me so many nice messages. People say, hey, I found this. I would love to send it to you, contribute to your collection.
Also, that was me. I've got 5 of those, Warren. Okay.
I mean, sure. And then I'll take 4 of them. But people, overall, people have been very, very cool. I've met so many awesome people. I'm actually... without going down the full list, if they hear this, they know who they are. I actually have like a direct message on my Instagram with other Simpsons collectors from around the world, where we sort of like talk about different things, or I found this for sale. Who needs it?
That's cool.
And it's like sort of a little brain trust there. So
that's
shout
what
out to them.
that's what I like about your page, is that it's like if social media was an ice cream social, where like it's a room where everybody comes in and they all just start talking about Simpsons. And it's like, you get the occasional weirdos, like you said. But for the most part, it seems like when you just like, here's this cool picture I took of like this. Did you know there's a history behind that? Boom, got it. And then people are like, oh my God, that's so cool. Or I remember that. Or like, we can't say it enough on the show that it's the warmest of feelings are attached not only to the show, but to your page, man.
Thank you.
You get a lot of people clearly that are not only just haphazardly like tripping on the internet and they magically find you. It's like they're looking for something like this. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, well, first of all, thank you guys for being fans of mine. Like I said, I have 42,000 followers.
What a cold-blooded killer.
Yo, okay, now my dick is
Take that back.
No. I'm all joking aside. I mean, I am. It makes me really happy that people get to experience things that they probably got rid of a long time ago through my page, and I am just happy that it actually caught on, and that it wasn't like a waste of time. I'm glad that it actually is something, like I said, that people can find like a connection to, either because they love the show, or because they also collect, or because they have some other connection to the show for whatever reason, through like a family member or whatever. And no amount of, negative comments, which there's not many, but no amount of negativity would take away from the positivity.
Challenge accepted.
Yeah. No, I mean, you can try. That's fine.
So let me ask you this, from one content creator group to another content creator. What is your goal for the page? Do you have an overarching goal? So the actual goal, I would say that there probably wasn't a goal in the beginning. I was just like, hey, I need to, I can't display this stuff because I live in this tiny apartment, so I should probably take photos of it at least so I can sort of enjoy it, catalog it. So that's really how it started. But as far as the goal, like, I just hope it, how do I say this without sounding like an asshole?
Too late.
I would ask C, but he has no clue.
Nice. And a burn with C?
So...
Actually, wait, hold on. Hey, you can't be disrespecting my man like that.
You were late already too, man. You were so late on that,
well,
man. Whatever.
I mean, listening
with both of you.
Listening to other episodes of this podcast, I think I can probably get away with saying whatever I want about C. So,
you know what, Warren?
Shout out to Shaggy Black.
That's why I fuck with you.
Yo, thank you. No, but as far as a goal, like, I really just wanted to remind people that you don't have to be like some big shot on the internet to just share your stuff and be cool and like meet people and talk to people about things that you like. Like, I think if you have a cool idea for an Instagram, even if it's like, hey, I'm going to take screenshots of Twin Peaks. If you have a cool idea for an Instagram or something that you think people would enjoy sharing, then start something. Like, give someone like a reason to share it in their story and talk about, you know, a show that they like just because they found this cool thing. If you have a cool idea for a shirt company, or, you know, if you want to make bottles for coffee, or if you want to make straws, if you have a cool idea, just do it. And I'm not trying to give myself too much credit because I don't think I had some crazy cool idea. I think you just, if you have something that you think would be fun, then the fun has to outweigh any sort of like end game that you have. Do it because you enjoy it, you know?
I respect that.
Do you watch Twin Peaks?
So true story, full disclosure. I have watched the entire first season of Twin Peaks, and I've seen the majority of season 2 of Twin Peaks, and I have never finished it.
Okay.
But as far as do I like it, yes, my wife is a big fan.
I'm a huge Twin Peaks fan.
It's a great show.
It is a great show.
I want to get back on this collection because
welcome to the Twin Peaks podcast.
Twin Peaks
everyone.
podcast.
We're going to talk about
Peak
the
of Darkness.
because one of my favorite things about your page is when you'll post like certain items. Like, for example, I think and help me out here, but that Bartman figure. You had a
Right.
post about Bartman, and the background that you gave, it was just like so nuanced and technical. Like, even though like I love watching other collectors get in their like super detailed back, even if it's not about me. I just want to see the passion, right?
Right.
And you had posted something along the lines of like, yo, I got this from a collector in Argentina. Not sure where the origin is. Like, you were trying to dig for more information on something that probably someone forgot like all about.
True. So, also full disclosure, I'm actually thinking about that Bartman right now because it conceives my every thought. Anyone listening to this, go to my Instagram if you haven't. Look you're going to have to go a little ways back, but find this post about a Bartman doll that I made. And if you or anyone you have ever met knows what this doll is, please contact me. So I bought this doll recently from a collector. He said he had it for 15 years, and when he bought the doll, it was told to be a prototype produced by a company called City Toy in Argentina. What I know about this doll is that City Toy is a real company. I know that there is a Lisa that was also made by City Toy, but I also know that there is no official information anywhere on the internet. And trust me, I know how to use the internet. I've tried every possible search to find this information about this Bartman. So I bought it from this collector. It was called a prototype. The only information that comes up when you search for this toy is a photo of the actual one that I bought from the Etsy store where I bought it. So
It's like a Twilight Zone episode.
so the doll is too nice to be fake, in my opinion. It's clearly not just where someone bought like a dandy Bart doll and painted it. The box is really nice. The confusion comes in because he's painted his mask and cape are painted black and not purple, which is incorrect. But I do think that would be that would fall in line with the idea of it being a prototype because they wouldn't really want to color match. So they're like, okay, let's do it black. Show them if they like it, we'll produce it. So I've reached out to people from the show. I've reached out to the former merchandising president, Alivadia, no brag. And he straight up tells me that's fake. And I'm like, Al, I respect you. I trust you.
But you shut your mouth.
I just don't believe that it's fake. And so I'm still operating under the theory that maybe he just hasn't, it's been a long time since he worked with the show. Maybe he forgot. Or maybe it was licensed to Argentina and he never had to approve it. But it is my firm belief that this doll is real. I've gotten one person who told me, I've seen one once before and I'm fairly confident it is real. And he's supposed to give me more information. If you're listening to this, Jason, please get me that information. But I think about this doll every day. And I've just accepted that it's probably extremely rare or it's worthless and is trash.
What's the tie between Argentina and Simpsons?
Nothing really aside from being. I mean, it is wildly popular in Argentina. I think they're just one of the only early companies, like in the 90 to 92 window, that licensed anything from it. And all my research has told me that stuff is legitimate. If someone can prove to me otherwise that it's not, I'm all ears. But the information is spotty at best. But it falls in line that it's real, based on something that I could probably talk about for 3 hours.
I feel like this is...
Hold on, man. No, wait. So, like, the whole time freaking Warren's talking, all I imagine is, like, you got a fedora on and a whip.
Right.
And
Neck
you're in
beard.
Argentina, and you're sitting here, and you've got, like, two little manservants, and, like, one of them's like, throw me the doll. No time to argue, Dr. Jones. And then, like, he tries to betray you, but you get the doll back, and outside there's, like, another collector, and he's like, Todd, I knew it. And he's like,
Yes, you could warn them, Warren, if only you spoke Jovitos.
so stupid, man.
But this doll, guys, you don't understand. This doll has to be real. Like,
Yo, I believe you.
it's too nice to not be real. If anyone made this doll back in 92 and it is fake, then it's the best fake doll ever made. There's too many things that point to it being real. So if you're listening, Al, which you're probably not, I know you worked for the show for a long time. You're one of the most important things to happen to the show, but fuck you, it's real.
So how many...
I don't mean that, Al.
How many pieces... I think I had asked this earlier, but how many pieces roughly, I mean, just a ballpark figure of merchandise do you have in your collection?
So I would say, and this is something I really should have cataloged when I moved.
I was going to ask you if you'd ever cataloged.
I wish I had. Okay. I think right now I'm between 1,500 and I'd say between 1,500 and 2,000 unique items, which is how they really classify for like records or whatever. I'm nowhere near a record, by the way, so don't. But if I had to guess on the low end, I mean, because right now I still haven't made 1,000 posts on my Instagram, which seems crazy, but I think it's just because I post one thing at a time, and I've also, because of the length of time I've had the page, I've reposted certain things, so gone back and deleted the old one just to share it with newer followers so they don't have to scroll all the way back. But I know that there's a lot of things that I've never posted, like easily another, 500, 600, 700 things. So I'd say at this point I'm between 1,500 and 2,000.
What are some of the more like unique like things you got? Like, for example, that Bart surfing plate.
Okay, so definitely the Bartman doll.
Okay.
Again, still looking for information, guys.
Yeah, Warren, we get it.
Okay,
This has become an audio milk carton.
Warren's like, it belongs in a museum.
It really does. That Bartman doll for sure. Bart surfing on a shark.
It's a plate, right?
Porcelain plate.
What's the deal with that, real quick?
So there were 6 plates before that were all pretty easy to get. And there was a 7th one that was going to be sold, and they cut production before they ever actually sold it. So the only people who have them are like probably I think they say the people that had the original 6 were offered the 7th, but they didn't run ads for it. So to get one, you sort of had to someone or whatever. I would say the arcade machine has got to be one of the things. Not that you don't see them, but I feel like a lot of people don't just own them in their house.
Which game is it?
It's the very first arcade game, so it's like the beat 'em up style one that Konami made.
Yes.
Okay, easily the best one. There's been a lot of Simpsons games. Most of them are really terrible. That's something else that we could talk about for a long time. In fact, I think we should find time to talk about that.
Yo, shout out to Konami for making sweet ass beat 'em ups, dude.
Absolutely.
X-Men
all day. We can stop
game,
right there.
That game's amazing. So let's see, the arcade. Definitely the pre-production sketches are personal to me, even though they're not super valuable. I would say anything that's like limited. My note from Yardley Smith, shout out to Yardley.
Voice of Lisa, right?
Voice of Lisa, the best cartoon character in history. I don't even want to call it a cartoon character because she's just that great.
She's my favorite.
But best animated character of all time, I'll say that. I would say, man, what is some more weird stuff? You sort of start to forget.
If I may interject,
yeah, absolutely.
I just want to say probably my favorite merch item that I saw in there was probably that framed double platinum.
Oh, right.
Help me out here.
RIAA award.
Yes, that record of yours.
Right.
What was the record for? Help me.
So it was Simpsons Sing the Blues.
Okay, there we go.
And it was actually given to a record, not a record. It was given to a radio station in Birmingham. And I don't actually know a ton about what designates which radio stations get given RIAA awards. I don't know if maybe that radio station in particular really played Do the Bartman a lot. I have no idea what that.
Yeah.
But that's actually a really cool thing because in my research online, those are very hard to find. In fact, I couldn't find another one for sale other than one that was sold at Sam Simon's estate auction when he passed away. So, I mean, it's not like it actually feels sort of on the cheap side, but it's actually one of the hardest things to find that I've seen.
Beautiful,
so that
man.
definitely, thank you.
Really
that definitely makes the list.
I was going to say, dude, you mentioned within the past few minutes, you're like, hey, this is, it's not really all that valuable, but I have it in my collection, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, but it is though, like that's the point of the Instagram page, right? Is you're taking things that mean something to you.
Right.
And you're like, hey, this may not have monetary value, quote unquote, but here's a picture of something I think is cool, and now it's become art.
Right.
Because as soon as you snap a photo, it is literally shot through the lens of where you think. As soon as you start composing a framing, a shot, it is art. And now it does have artistic value. Dude, you ascribe value to stuff that you think doesn't have monetary value.
Right.
Without getting too metaphysical or philosophical. But I think that's the appeal. Like, I think that's why people keep coming back. And it's like, this guy gets it. Like, he gets it. Like, yeah, to somebody else, that's just a piece of plastic. But to this dude, like, he's got memories attached to it.
Right.
There was a hunt for it. There's a lot of, like, maybe some seedy stuff in the background regarding how this was made.
Right.
You don't just say something doesn't have value. If you know the exact dye color of The Simpsons. Like, Bart tried to check you, and you were like, "It's actually, TK421. Why aren't you at your post?" Like you had it like on lock, man. Like,
I mean, I don't. It comes from, and when I talk about value, I mean everything in that room is extremely valuable to me, down to like the cheapest keychain to the fanny pack to the baseball or the cards that they came out with in the early 90s.
Your heart's in that room, man.
It's in that room.
It's in that room.
And so I definitely, I don't think a whole lot sets me apart from other people who do similar things to me now, other than the fact that I have a dangerous obsession with how my photos look. And what I mean by that is if I take a photo, this is a little inside baseball for everybody. If I take a photo and I look at my grid before I even take a photograph, I look at my grid and I go, okay, what were the last like 4 backgrounds that I used? Like, where did I take these last like 6 photos? Because I don't want to use the same aesthetic too many times in a row. And I know that there's at least 5 to 50 people listening to this to go, Jesus, what a loser. But at the end of the day, I want my page to not only look nice in the photos, but I want when people go to the page for the first time and they scroll through, I want them to see the way that the photos look side by side and get like almost like a gallery effect. Just because that matters to me. How, like, I want it to look the way I would, like, if I saw it and it looked that way, it would appeal to me. So that's like the end goal for me, is just to like make it look nice, whether you're just finding it or whether you just see a random post on your popular page or whatever is it? What's it called now? Like, it's not even called a popular page anymore.
Featured?
Yeah, featured, like whatever. So I just want it to look nice no matter how you come across it. Whether it's like my icon, which is literally just a sketch I used to do on all my packages that I colored.
Oh, you
in
did that
Photoshop.
sketch?
Yeah.
Oh, that's really rad.
Yeah. It was like I used to draw it on the bottom of all the labels when I would send out like shirts or hats or whatever. And so I was like, I should probably do something with this. So I actually like drew it, colored it, and made it my icon. So super inside baseball on that.
Speaking of inside baseball, I'm gonna put you on Front Street for
me on
the
Front
shit
Street.
you talked earlier.
Let's do it.
But it's in a good way. It's in a good way. We were walking out and we were coming over here to record, and you very offhandedly just kind of looked at your collection and you're like, "See you later, guys." And it was the most touching thing I'd ever seen, because I feel that way about some stuff, man. Like the stuff, like, dude, that's your heart in that room, man. Like, it's for real. Like, when I saw it, I was like, you wouldn't let me. You were like, "Man, no, don't film that shit." And I was like, man, that's where it's at. Like, that's why people sign up. Like, that's what got me on board. Like, I'm like, you're legit dude when it comes to that sort of thing.
But see, that's because there's something wrong with me. It's not because it's sweet or cute. It's because I probably have some sort of disorder.
Thank God.
Yo, then you're in the right company.
You're in the right place.
Like, you don't
sir.
want to know the type of jokes and like comments me and Steve make about comic books and our love of like just nerding out about that
No,
stuff.
I actually
So
do. Let's flip this. Let's
No,
talk
not at
to
all.
you guys.
Well, no. Speaking of comic books, now Bart checked you on something. I'm going not to check you, but more or less ask, because you're the guy to ask.
Sure.
As far as comic book references in The Simpsons, there are quite a bit.
There are.
Can you drop a few off the top of your head?
Oh, man. So...
feel free to stretch if you need to.
Yeah, well, so there are a lot of references to comic books. In fact, one of the animation cells that I do have in my room is a cell of Bart and Milhouse fighting in the treehouse.
Yeah.
And that's from an episode called 3 Men in a Comic Book. And that is that Milhouse and Bart, and they put their money together and they buy a comic book. And Martin as well, Bart, Milhouse, and Martin. They put their money together and they buy a Radioactive Man #1. And they couldn't afford it on their own, so they get it together and they're having a sleepover in their treehouse. And they start going crazy with whose turn it is to hold it, whose turn it is to read it. They're trying to divvy up who gets to have it for how many days, and oh, well, if I get this day, then you get this day, and it becomes this whole thing to where they love it so much that they destroy the comic book. So that's one of the best, like, not only windows into the way children are with their things,
Well said.
but it's also just a window into, like, anytime you love something that much, you'll probably start to hurt it or yourself in some way. But so you have that. You have the first time that there is they make Radioactive Man the movie, and they do it in Springfield, and the idea is that Springfield is this cheap town where they don't even know the value of anything, so they can do it for close to nothing. Which is also one of the greatest moments in any episode is when the acid destroys everything, and he says the goggles do nothing. Which I'm not even like, which I dare anyone to tell me a funnier, like, you can say that to almost anyone and they will remember that scene and think it's funny. But my favorite part is not even that. It's the fact that he goes, "All right, guys, we've got one shot to do this. That's real acid, and go." Like that, just that whole
That's real acid.
just everything about that is so funny. But there's actually a ton. I mean, without remembering the actual episode right off the top of my head, there's an episode where Matt Groening is at a convention in the show. And
that's great.
The joke is sort of like, oh, Matt's so nice. Like, he'll give you a clip of his hair. He'll do whatever. The underrated part of that joke is that in the background, Lenny is doing like a Jetson cosplay. So, like, the funniest part in those scenes is actually like the stuff in the background. Anytime there's like a reference to superheroes, like they always do a lot of really great jokes in the background.
Oh, sure.
So,
And the one that stands out is when Stan Lee was on
just
the
about to
show.
bring it
right,
up. Yeah.
absolutely.
And, the main joke was like Homer's hulking out.
Right.
And, and the jokes that got me, like, where Stanley's shoving a Spider-Man and he breaks the kids into the Batmobile. And he's like, "Wouldn't you rather have Spider-Man drive this car?" And he's like, "Oh, you broke my toy." But, like, the whole, like, that's not what made me laugh. What made me laugh was the fucking old guy joke, the Bill Bixby reference, where he's like, he's like, "Oh, I could turn to the Hulk." So start trying to Hulk out, and he's like, "I used to be able to do it." And comic book guy comes out and he goes, "Please, you couldn't even transform into a Bill Bixby." And I was just dying, like, yo, this guy's shit talking Stan Lee.
Yo, the most pathetic character on the show. A lot of people say it's Mo. I think it's easily Comic Book Guy.
Oh, for sure.
Which they
100%.
said originally was supposed to be sort of a jab at Matt Groening for being like such a comic book guy.
That's awesome.
Because I mean, he ran Bongo forever,
Right.
You know, so he's like always. I mean, before he did The Simpsons, he did comic strips, but that's
You know-
a whole other conversation.
One episode that me and Drew heavily reference is "It's still good. It's still good.
Oh.
Just a little."
A classic. That's actually one of my all-time favorite episodes, but that's for a lot of different reasons. So.
Well, actually, that was my next question: is how often do you get asked? You know, what are your favorite episodes or seasons? And I mean, what are they?
I actually get asked a lot, but it's always like it's
Is it ever
always
to
from-
like check you? Is it ever to like check your nerd?
Maybe. I mean, I'm sure a lot of times when people comment certain things, it's like sort of baited, like they're sort of like trying to like get one over on me. But
It's our way.
that's that's just
It's our comic book way, man.
There's
Comic
always
guy way.
going to be people that do that. Like I've had people tell me like, "Oh, I remember watching this episode for the first time in the '80s." And it's like, I mean, technically only one episode aired in the '80s, so you're
Right,
wrong. But
right,
okay,
right.
there's a lot of people that try to
Yo, look,
like
do not
get
fuck
me-
with Warren.
Yeah,
like
there's-
that's what I'm learning right now.
See what I'm saying? See, that's why I want. I totally would trade that experience. I'd be like, "Yo, 6-year-old C, you're a fucking piece of shit."
But I try so hard to be nice to those people because
Yeah,
I'm just like, oh yeah, well no, you're close, you know, like you're almost there, bud. So in preparation for this, when you said that you might bring up some episodes and things, I actually made a list.
Oh, bring
and
it.
this is basically anyone who needs like a list of what I think are the best episodes. Like if you were just trying to put together like a mixtape, right, from the first 10 seasons. And let me just say right now, as sort of this is like a really bad segue, but I am also a huge advocate for The Simpsons after season 10, which I know is like a very unpopular opinion. And I would love to touch on that a little more after my list, because I think a lot of people are convinced that it's bad because everyone tells them that it's bad, and they don't actually try to look at the reasons why it might be different as opposed to bad. So these are my favorite episodes, and I might have missed one along the way. I don't think so. But when you guys have me on for the third and fourth time, we'll clean that up.
Yo, Warren and Theo.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to say what season these are from because like this is from seasons 1 to 10. Bart gets hit by a car.
Good one.
Lisa's Substitute, which is arguably one of the most touching episodes of television ever made, in my opinion. I could watch it right now in front of both of you and cry my eyes out. That is no exaggeration. I think everyone who's ever seen that probably feels the same way. I Married Marge. New Kid on the Block. One of my absolute favorites.
Which one was that one again?
New Kid on the Block is the one where a mother and her daughter move next door, and Bart gets a really big crush on her.
Yeah, okay.
Great episode. Homer Goes to College. Lisa versus Malibu Stacy. Also,
Oh
one
my
of the-
god, that one was so good.
such a important episode.
You may be right. You might have a point about Lisa Simpson being one of the best.
I think Lisa
characters.
Simpson, again, I will stress this, is the greatest animated character ever created, and there's so much, so many reasons I can give for that. One of them being that Yardley only voices her, whereas everyone else voices so many other characters. So Yardley has given like the last 30 years of her life to being this one character on the show, which I think has to mean the connection is a little stronger there. Yeah, I also, let me just say, if you don't follow Yardley Smith on the internet, you absolutely should. She is just the absolute fucking best. I love her. So after Lisa versus Malibu Stacy, we have Lisa's Rival, and I hope you guys are writing these down because this is like the quintessential.
I'm trying to like sneak on
Mixtape.
Amazon real quick,
Bro,
and, like,
I'll send you the list. But
Please,
anyone
yeah,
listening,
send me
like,
the list, too.
Bart's Girlfriend, Who Shot Mr. Burns, Part 1 and 2.
Come on, baby.
great.
Classic.
Lisa the Vegetarian, already touched on that a little bit. Just such an important episode. One of the first episodes on like a major TV show about like animal rights. 22 short films about Springfield. Anyone who follows memes on the internet, which is literally everyone, has probably seen memes about steamed hams, which is easily one of the most memed things ever. And that is from that episode. It was created by Bill Oakley and Josh Weinstein, and I still think it's one of the funniest jokes of all time. Huge Bill Oakley fan. If you're not following him on the internet, please do. He reviews fast food. He is fucking hilarious. One of the nicest guys ever. One of the most responsive, and I mean, he's just great. Summer of 4'2". That's the episode where Lisa goes to the beach and she tries to recreate her whole personality. She tries to be cool. She meets these kids.
Yeah.
They figure out that she's nerdy.
Didn't she get dreads?
They
or
won't
some
like
shit?
her. She has like
something like that.
She wears like a tie-dye shirt.
There we go.
She
I'm
wears like
thinking
a
that.
weird hat and sunglasses.
Yeah.
She gets real weird in that episode. It's so good. You Only Move Twice. Bart After Dark. Homer's Phobia, which is just a wonderful episode that just kind of shows why some people are homophobic for no reason, just misconceptions. The Joy of Sect, which is low key like just mad jabs at like Scientology, which I'm amazed Nancy Cartwright signed off on that because she actually is a Scientologist.
Really?
Yeah, it's unfortunate. But I still love you anyway, Nancy. Shout out to you. And then lastly, Bart the Mother, which is where Bart Nelson dares Bart to kill a bird, and Bart tries to purposely miss the bird. And Nelson's like, "Oh man, you even compensated for the crooked sight on the gun." And so Bart actually ends up killing the bird.
Yeah.
And he like nurses, gets the eggs, and he sort of like watches them until they hatch because he's like he feels so bad about it. It's a really sweet episode.
Damn, man.
So that's 1 through 10.
That's a stellar mixtape.
That's a great mixtape. If you want it, you can send me $20 and I'll send you a list. So.
Yo, I'm taking a picture of my phone.
That list made me think about one episode in particular that, as a kid, I remember like really kind of like, and that freaked me out, but it resonated with me, and I just thought about it a lot. The episode where Bart trades his soul for Pogs, right?
Right.
And I just remember like that might have been like one of my first moments of having like this moment of like spirituality. Oh, yeah, thank you. And I just remember thinking like,
yo, you drunk?
Like walking to elementary school, like I can never I should never trade my soul.
Yeah.
Like
Pogs, definitely.
Yeah. I mean, Ashley definitely has
For sure. Oh yeah, gone.
But see, do you got any like episodes that still kind of resonate with you?
It's Cape Fear all the way, man.
Oh yeah, Cape Fear almost made the list. See, if I would have made this list as long as like I purposely made myself like, all right, yo, just don't put like 7 from every season because this list will be way too long. Bart Sells His Soul, I really wanted to put on there. The thing about that episode, not to cut C off here, I definitely want to hear your thoughts on Cape Fear. But I wanted to touch on him selling his soul. It's funny because the older I get, the more I relate to Bart just being like mean to Milhouse and being like, "Come on, man! Like, no, you don't have a soul." Like Bart getting like angry with Milhouse like for being so dumb as to believe in that. To me, is like that becomes funnier and funnier. The scenes with Lovejoy, like pouring the money and being like, oh, just like the jokes about religion in that episode are so ahead of themselves, in my opinion. Like, and the only thing about that episode that not to assume anyone's like religious stance. I'm not a very religious person. I don't fault anyone who is at all. I have a lot of respect for that, but I do.
Except Scientology.
Right. No, I don't respect Scientology at all. You can quote me on that. But the only thing about that episode that I almost wish was different is I wish that it didn't end with Bart getting his soul back, because I think that's an odd message to give a kid in a way, but also Lisa seems a little too religious in that episode for me, which has always been kind of weird because I feel like Lisa is like mostly comes across very atheist, very agnostic in most of the show. So I always thought that was
she's a Buddhist,
strange.
right?
Yeah, she ends up becoming sort of a Buddhist later on. Well, not sort of. She does end up becoming Buddhist. Richard Gere is in that episode, actually.
That's great.
Yeah, it's a great episode. But no, that's. I'm glad that you remember that episode. There's a lot of really great jokes in that episode about Milhouse. Like he's outside, like playing with it in the mud. It's like why? Like what a great gag. Like why would you buy a piece of paper that your friend gives you that says Bart's soul on it, but also why would you be playing with it in the mud? Such a ridiculous.
Yeah, I remember that.
It's such a great gag.
See, what about Cape Fear?
Well, I mean, just Sideshow Bob is one of the best characters.
Absolutely.
I think Sideshow Bob is so awesome. Anytime he's on the show, so that gag is so freaking corny.
It is.
But every time the Ray,
and it just does it so much.
and just like just he's so he's so refined. He's like freaking.
Yo.
He is Khan from Star Trek. He's Bane from Batman. He's like, but he's also a fucking doofus too.
Kelsey is so great at that role. Like he's amazing, and it shouldn't be understated how incredible the scene in that episode is where he's trying to convince Homer that his name is Thompson, and Homer just refuses to remember that that's So the guy is literally stomping on his foot saying, "Mr. Thompson," and Homer just cannot.
I think he's talking to you.
Like he just refuses. I think that's easily one of the funniest episodes. You also have the brownies. Like that's been memed so many times.
What was the episode where the kids like Krusty basically is like, I'm not made of steel. Like he basically sells out like in a heartbeat when like the minute before he was just talking about, you kids have taught me a lesson. I can't remember what it was.
Oh my
man.
God. So there's so many episodes where Krusty is a shithead.
Dude.
Where he says he's like, they drove a garbage truck full of money up to my house. I'm not made of steel.
I'm not made of steel.
I'm pretty. That has to be. And I'm actually taken aback that I'm even having to think about it. But that's
Didn't they
Camp
get
Krusty.
his they gave him his career back. Is that the one? No, I'm
no.
getting it wrong.
It's not. It's got to be Camp Krusty because they ask him how he could ever lend his name to something so terrible.
That's what it was.
He's like they
How
drove a
could you
garbage.
do that?
One thing I will say, and I try to keep it sharp all the time about The Simpsons, but once in a while, and no one, I don't care how big of a nerd you are, no one is above sort of starting to blend episodes together.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
There's so many times when I watch them now where I will expect a gag that's coming up that doesn't happen, and it's because it's just reminds me of a different episode.
The Krusty
He's
episode
already dead. That is
so good.
It's his I guess his dad comes by and he's like, you left the faith, you were supposed to do this sort of
Herschel
thing.
Krostowski.
Right. And you forgot the traditions of your people, but for some reason the Halloween joke that Krusty makes where he's like, I've heard of a wailing wall, but this is ridiculous. And everyone goes, and they moan.
They just groan.
I thought that was in that episode because they referenced the wailing wall in Israel. So I was
all
like,
the time.
I don't know. It's not that one. Okay.
No, it happens a lot.
Actually, that brings up, how often are you watching Simpsons?
So I will say, I don't know if I touched on this earlier. I'm pretty sure that I didn't, but around the time that I moved to Florida, did either one of you guys ever play Simpsons Tapped Out, the game?
No.
Well, it's a money pit. Never play it. But when it first came out, I loved it.
Is it a mobile game?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
it's basically like Sim City, but it's like Simpsons
Okay.
universe.
Okay.
And it was really fun when it first came out, but it definitely, I think that game specifically got a lot of people or reminded people how much they loved The Simpsons. I definitely think that game. Some people owe a lot to that game, sort of reminding them of characters and making them want to watch The Simpsons. But around the time that was getting popular, I had just sort of started rediscovering and watching it again on a weekly basis. And that was also around the time that I moved to Florida to be closer to my girlfriend, now wife. And shout out to you, Emily. I've said your name like 10 times on this podcast, but shout out to you. Around that time, we were talking about The Simpsons, and she was like, yeah, I never actually watched it when I was a kid. Like, it was never really on my radar. So I was like, oh, we should totally watch it. Like, I've actually been really dying to, sort of start it over, rewatch those old seasons, get up to around where I remember and watch the ones I don't remember. And it was around that time that we started watching it, and that was sort of what jump-started me collecting, was just rewatching the show from the beginning with her for the first time. But back to the question, as far as watching it often, it's pretty standard for me to put in at least a disc every night. Like when if I'm not ready to go to sleep, if it's like, I'll watch a couple episodes of this season, and I'll sort of just make my way through them. It's like, all right, well, I just finished season 10, so I'll go grab 11, and then however long it takes me to finish 11. So I try to at least get it in. A couple episodes every other day. There are periods of time, like I remember when I had my wisdom teeth removed. Oof. I probably watched 7 consecutive seasons of The Simpsons. I just was just killing it, And I mean, anytime that I'm, maybe not having the best week or where I just have nothing to do, it definitely is sort of that happy place for me where it's like, I'm just gonna watch season 6 or I'm gonna watch season 3 or 4. Like, I'm gonna watch one of my favorite seasons and I'm sort of gonna just wind it down, get back balanced out, and go into the next day fresh. So pretty often, I'd say I watch pretty often.
I would like to revisit what you had mentioned as far as everything after season 10 usually getting a bad rep,
right,
and things like that. I mean, what's your case for the later seasons?
Baby, I could talk about this forever. So if they're we talk about people on my Instagram. If there's ever a topic that gets people just on my case, it's when I talk about newer seasons, and at this point, there's more newer quote unquote seasons than there are old ones.
That was the first thing I talked with you about in the store. I asked you, I said, I don't have a problem with newer seasons.
Right.
And I asked you, I was like, what do you think, dude? Like, you're an OG fan. And you were like, I fuck with them.
Yeah, I do. I absolutely do. And so I think, so make no mistake, there's a lot of people that say, oh, seasons 2 through 9 or 2 through 10, 2 through 11. There's definitely exceptions. Some people like a little further in. There's a lot of people that call that the golden era, and I don't disagree.
Sure.
I think season and a lot of people leave season 1 out of that. I don't think that's fair. I think season 1 is very important to the show, and I think it should be included by default.
It's historical.
Yeah, it's
and it's not bad.
No, it's definitely not bad, and you can definitely see by the end the pieces falling into place, and I think it's wonderful. So I think seasons 1. First of all, the first thing that I will complain about is people always say 1 through 10 or 1 through 9. Season 11 smokes season 10, and I will argue that for so long. I think season 10 is, if anything, a low point in the show, and some of the episodes in season 10 are definitely what did in the show to a lot of people, and I think that's why some people don't watch beyond that. Now, I don't think there's an episode in 10 that's so bad that it's unwatchable or that it's not even funny, but I think there are some episodes where it sort of became what a lot of people call Captain Wacky or Jerk-Ass Homer era. Well, I guess Jerk-Ass technically started a little before that, but it's definitely when people talk about Homer becoming Captain Wacky, which I don't disagree with. There's some stuff that definitely, it's like, oh, it no longer matters if Homer has a job. It no longer matters if you even know if his bosses know why he's not there. Like, it just, like, Homer sort of does whatever he wants. He's basically invincible. And I can see why that turns some people off, because it takes this really grounded show that talked about real family situations and being broke and not having money for an air conditioner. And now all of a sudden Homer is like, I'm going to quit my job and become a hippie. I can see why some of those episodes annoy people. But I think what people underestimate is that no show, unless they were able to maintain every single staff writer, would ever keep the exact same tone for 30 years. And I think it's a testament to a show like The Simpsons that they've been on this long without being canceled, without really ever even a threat of being canceled. Like, that should tell people enough that there is an audience for it. There are enough good episodes. And I think people just don't give it enough of their attention. They don't give it enough time to sit down and watch those episodes because they don't make them feel the same way that the first ones did. So I think between 11 and 30, there's way more good than bad that you can find. Well, you know what? Actually, I'm going to walk that back. There might be more episodes that you don't like than like, but I think that there are no episodes that are so bad that you should not be able to appreciate those seasons for what they are. You have younger writers that grew up with different types of comedy. You have younger writers that grew up watching The Simpsons that want to write for The Simpsons, but they can't just like steal the ideas. Like, can you imagine how, I'm trying to say this without just rambling, can you imagine how daunting it is to get a staff writing job on a show like The Simpsons, one of the greatest, most revered TV shows of all time, and try to come up with an idea that's not only funny, but that hasn't already been done? Like, I think if people challenge themselves to look at what people faced in those seasons, and there's probably some things I'm sure that even they would do differently. I think some of the stuff that seemed funny in 2003 would probably not get considered for an episode now, not because it's like problematic, but just because it's not, it's very dated, or the humor is not specific enough for something that a kid now would even laugh at. But the case I will make after this long just word vomit that I've had here is that I think if people sat down and actually watched those seasons, they would realize that there's a lot to love about them, and there is some really great episodes that they are missing because they're too stubborn to actually take the time to check them out.
That's one hell of a justification. I can get behind that.
I tried to get
Warren, I will wrap us up with this last question.
Sure.
How does it feel knowing that you've reached a point where, I mean, your name drop, and humbly, you're name dropping a lot of pivotal names in the Simpson, world. How does it feel knowing that you've reached this point of, like, as a fan, that you can reach out to a lot of these important writers and voice actors, et cetera? I mean, do you ever just like take a step back, like, damn,
I mean, absolutely. That's actually a really great question, because when I was sort of thinking about being on here, that's one of the things I thought about, because I think we are all very lucky as fans now for things to be as accessible as they are. I think it's insane how easy it is to reach out to someone who works on some of your favorite stuff and be able to talk to them and get a response from them. Twitter is absolutely next level for that right now. Yeah. So many writers from The Simpsons are on Twitter and are so eager to answer your questions and talk to you. I'll give you a quick point to that question. There was a hat that this guy had posted, and he was trying to get some information about it. It was a hat that was for the Who Shot Mr. Burns episodes, and it had Mr. Burns' face on it with a bullseye. It had the Fox logo on the back. And I was like, man, that hat is so cool. Like, it's one of the things I've never seen. I'll have to ask. So I got on Twitter. I reached out to Bill Oakley. I reached out to Josh Weinstein. I think I tagged a couple of other people. And the amount of information I received from Bill and Josh about that hat, Bill sent me like a photo wearing it. He's like, oh, actually, this is from the premiere party. Like, I got like just a world of knowledge unfolded in these comments. And again, I don't know if Bill would hear this, but if he does, shout out to Bill, because he's been so friendly every single time I've had a question for him. He's been so responsive. The fact that we are able to reach out to people like that we admire, that we look up to, that have worked on some of our favorite things, is something I don't think we should take for granted.
Fair.
And I think it's really cool that not only can I do that, but anyone can do that. If you have a question and you're like, I wonder what made Bill and Josh think of steamed hams, I'm going to ask them, and I'm sure like they get that all the time, but being able to reach out to these people and have those conversations is something that I, as a fan of the show, would have never imagined I could do. And I don't know if it's because they're just great people. I think that's more so what it is, or if it's because I run this Instagram. I don't even know if some of them have seen it. But just having the ability to have those conversations with people I look up to is huge. And I can't say it enough. If you like something and you want to really appreciate it, learn about who wrote it, learn about who created it, learn about who directed the episodes. I promise you it will make you love that 10 times more.
Damn, Warren. Look, we've had stellar interviews, really great guests.
Oh, stop it.
But very few that have made me want to immediately go, like, take an action. I'm out to go ahead and spend a lot of money on some Simpson DVDs.
I just went on Amazon and bought everything.
I was wondering why you were so silent. I was like, it seems like awfully silent. Warren, man, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for inviting us into your home, letting us get to see your collection.
Oh, man. Anytime.
I'm still seeing yellow, for the record. I'm
Do you
about
have to pee?
Yeah.
Let me just say thank you guys for letting me ramble on. I told you guys before this that I wasn't nervous, because I love to talk about The Simpsons. I love to talk about myself, but it can be daunting to make sure that you don't just spew words out that make no sense. And I hope that most of the things I said on this made sense. I hope that if you listen to this and you also follow me, that you like me more now and not less, and that you don't all go and follow me, because that could very well happen.
Look, if I know at least our fans, then I know that they probably feel pretty similar to how
They
I
have
feel
already
right now.
robbed your house. So
They are
that's
probably being reminded why they might love The Simpsons as much.
Oh, for sure.
You know? Because right now I'm like, damn, I'm getting like all these feels from
Dude,
like
you and I have made jokes about that too. Like we've made Simpson references to each other. That's it's in us, man.
It's a language, man. Like
Yeah.
I said, and you asked me what my goal for the Instagram was. I didn't really have an answer, but I think what you're saying right now about how it's making you want to watch the show, it's making you relive these childhood memories. That's the goal, man. I just want to share this cool shit that I buy, this stuff that I don't even need, that I'm just going to put on a shelf and I'm going to stare at it. I buy this stuff because it takes me back to a time where all I cared about was getting my Tombstone pizza or my hamburger helper and going home and watching The Simpsons with my brother. I remember being in church and just, I could not wait to get out of church. I was like, God, church sucks so much. Please let me just get home and make this pizza and watch The Simpsons and watch King of the Hill and watch X-Files. That's all I wanted to do.
cool.
Man,
That was a
great-
stellar
that's all I
lineup.
wanted
That
to
was
do.
a crazy lineup.
That's all I wanted. And you know, I'm gonna really hijack your podcast right now because I know you're trying
Well,
to
that's
shut
all
it
the
down.
time we've got
No,
today.
I know you're trying to shut it down, but I would not forgive myself if I didn't at least read these off real quick. Anyone out there that doesn't believe me about seasons after 11, I need you to write these down. So get your little rewind button ready. I need you to write these episodes down. This does not go all the way to 30 because I did not want to take 2 more hours on this podcast. But here's some episodes from 11 through around 17 that you need to watch. Guess Who's Coming to Criticize Dinner? EI Annoyed Grunt. That's dough in Simpsons language. Little Big Mom. Homer without the E. Homer. I'm sorry, HOMR is the name of the episode. Hungry Hungry Homer. I Am Furious, Yellow. The President Wore Pearls. Smart and Smarter. Bart Mangled Banner. All's Fair in Oven War. And Midnight RX. Watch those episodes. Good night.
Real quick, I am going to ask if you can send those because I would love to share that.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
with our
we could
listeners.
put that
Absolutely.
on the
That's a mixtape. So, Warren, how about this? Because we've got folks probably listening that aren't familiar with the page. Go ahead and give them the links and where they can find
Plug.
it.
Awesome.
plug.
I would love to do that. I would love to plug. First of all, like I said at the beginning of this podcast, I'm very famous. It does not make me any different from any of you. And if you want to reach out to me, I'll try to find time to reply. No promises.
It took us days and months to get this interview locked.
I promise you guys I'm not really like that, but you'll never know, will you? So on Instagram, it's just at Bart of Darkness. No spaces, no underscores, no nothing. You can also just search Bart of Darkness and you'll find it. You can go on Twitter and it's Bart of Darkness with an underscore after it because some asshole who hasn't updated his Twitter in 6 years will not delete it and let me have that name. I try to do different stuff on there. It's a lot of the same posts, but you'll see me have conversations. So you might find some cool information where I bug people to respond to me or I ask people to send me signed scripts or other things that I just really can't seem to stop bothering people about Simpsons things. I'm working on a YouTube currently and I'm working on a Patreon currently. I'm just trying to work the bugs out of a way that I can further any sort of community through a Patreon. Because if people are going to give me any sort of money, I want to make sure it's something that's recurring and worth their time. That will be cool for them. And speaking of Patreon, if you're not subscribed, well, I guess if you're listening to this, you're already on the Patreon.
It's going to be a general release in a couple weeks.
Well, so anyone who's not on the Patreon for Shortbox, support these guys, man. They're making great podcasts. They're working hard. They let me come on here and just babble on and on about The Simpsons. And I only hope that I'm so lucky to do a part 2 of this eventually.
God, that was
Nice.
So
That boy's
all I
good.
want.
Yeah, that boy is
good.
Look, and if any one of your 40,000 followers are listening to this and
42.
40, oh God, I'm sorry.
Come on, man.
I just
Welcome
anyone-
to the Bart of Darkness podcast.
any
I just
one of
jumped
your-
ship. I'm like, hey, my new friend and host is
you are
Warren.
so stupid. You are so stupid. If any one of your 42,000 followers are interested and enjoy this episode and want to listen to more Shortbox content, man, consider following us on social media at The Shortbox Jacks, subscribing to the show on your favorite podcast app, whether that's iTunes, Stitcher Radio, Spotify, SoundCloud, Google Play Music, etc. Wherever you get your podcasts, search The Shortbox.
Buzzsprout, too.
Buzzsprout, hit subscribe. We've got over 250 episodes, some of them pretty similar to this. I don't know if they're anywhere near as good as Warren.
I mean, probably not,
joke.
but you know what? Like, it's only up from here. You know what I
We
mean?
call the paramedics. They got a lot of broken arms, patting each other on the back.
Like, it took us 6 years to get this level, Warren. Let me have it. So, regardless, dude, thank you so much for a great interview.
Yeah,
and I
honestly.
want to go ahead and thank the listeners for tuning in and allowing us to go ahead and share this passion, this love, man.
Thank you guys so much for having me, man. This was a fucking blast.
Cool.
Can't wait to do it again or just to see you guys again.
Sweet.
All right,
you.
folks.
Yo, what happened to peace? Peace.